Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas EIKEV. Today I'd like to talk about the Segulah of Bircas Hamzon. Of course, Bircas Hamzon, which is listed v'yachalta v'savata v'rachas Hashem Elokechem, Perek Ches Pasuk Yud. When someone eats, it's natural that afterwards they're going to thank Hashem for what the food that they were given. Chofetz Chaim says that people look all around for segulos, for getting benefits, for health and family, etc. But they don't realize that the power of Bircas Hamzon, one who says is benching properly with Kavannah, enunciating every single word, then it's not a segulah, it's part of the result of the mitzvah. But people like to think of segulos, that's why we'll call it a segulah for now. But it's a mitzvah daraisa, which has an amazing power to provide nourishment and parnasa for people. There's a story with a R Shimon who lived out the latter part of his life in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, and he was always makbid. He was very careful to read the Bircas Hamzon, the Bentching, after he ate from a Siddur or a Bentcher with Kavannah, and he said every word, and it took him a long time. Someone finally asked him, why was he so careful with it? So he said that before World War II, before the Holocaust, Meir from Lublin, the Chozim Lublin, the Rosh Yeshiva, the great Gadol, came to this person's yeshiva when he was a little bacher, and he tested the class, and afterwards he said, I'm going to let you in a secret, that if you bench properly from a Siddur or a Bentcher every time with full Kavannah, you will never lack for your mazon, for your food. And from that day on, this boy Shimon was made a Kabbalah and was makbid to always take his time and bench from inside, not by heart. He became the benching boy in his class. His idyllic youth came to a crashing halt when World War II came and he was sent to the concentration camps. And as he was on line for the selexia, where they select people who will be able to die or who will be able to work and potentially survive. So he was only 11 years old at that time, but he was tall for his age. And so there was a guy behind him who said, look, you don't, because he didn't have skills, the guy told him, just tell them you're a butcher. That way you'll get assigned to the kitchen. I'll show you what to do. And that's what he did, and it worked out. They thought he was old enough. They sent him out to the kitchen, and being in the kitchen, he wasn't emaciated like most of the other Jews in the camps. And one time the commandant saw him and outside in the kitchen, and he saw that he wasn't emaciated, and he says, that's not right. You're taking advantage of the Nazi food, the SS food. He took him outside and he said, if you, where the ground was hard there, and he gave him a hammer and he said, you have 4 hours to make a 2 by 2 meter bunker that would protect the German soldiers in case there's an attack. Something that, of course, would be impossible for him to do in that time frame, in that ground, with that keli, with that utensil, that hammer. And he cried to Hashem, and he said, Hashem, I've always been makbid on saying the Bentching properly, and it's to guarantee that I, always have food, which I do, but is it meant that my life would be a short life too? I'd only have the food for this short life. A couple of minutes later, a truck of German soldiers came by where he was, and they saw a Jew, and because they're nasty or worse, they started throwing food at him, particularly potatoes. And before you knew it, he was like buried in potatoes and other fruits and vegetables as they moved on. Again, he cried to Hashem. It's like, this is what's going to happen for me. And an hour later, a truck full of Polish soldiers came by, and they were hungry, and they saw the food that this guy, and they figured he was German, and they said, we'll give you a lot of money for this food. And he's told them, I'll give it to you for free. All you have to do is build a 2 by 2 meter bunker here, dig it out of the ground. No time at all, they did it, and he was going to be saved. When the commandant came back at the end of the time period, he was shocked, but he had to keep the end of his deal, and he put the soldier back into his duties in the kitchen, and he was able to survive. The soldier, Shimon, this Reb Shimon, and his boy, and he was able to survive the war. And throughout his life, he was always makpid to read the Bentching very slowly. And if he didn't have a Bentcher around, then he wouldn't eat. He would make sure he always had that opportunity to be there. Let us take this lesson. It's not a Segulah. People like Segulas, but it's a mitzvah that has a guaranteed to give us parnasa, to be able to eat and to be healthy. Let's take advantage. At least the next time after you hear the shir, take a siddur or a Bentcher and read slowly and carefully the Bircas Hamzon, and we will be zocha to always find parnasa and see the gula shlemot from Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.